Hello, I'm just here to remind you that before we start the video that Rosco Berry is now on its own YouTube channel, and I'm just here to remind you that you can leave a comment in the comment section down below. Also, please do click the thumbs up button if you like this video, but most importantly, hit subscribe. Hit subscribe because all the behind the scenes stuff, not just with the model building, the prop building, the costume, the set, all that's going to be on this channel. And also, you know, the completed videos are going to be on the channel as well for you to see as well. So yeah, leave a comment in the comment section down below, click the thumbs up, but most importantly, hit subscribe. Hit it. Go on. I can wait. We've got all night. Go on, subscribe. Hit it. You know you want to. Okay, let's get on with the video. Thought I'd turn the camera on quickly and just show you what I'm doing here. I've made up some filler in there, and basically what I've done is where I've carved this foam on the edge here, I'm basically just covering the foam with filler, and just going over here and just making sure that it sort of just gets into all the little bubbles and everything, and just levels it off a little bit. I'm not trying to be too nice about it, I'm not trying to be too clean about it. Just trying to make sure that everything's filled, all the holes and everything, and it doesn't have to be too smooth. I'm not worried about it. So I'm just going to keep coming across all the way across the landscape, just getting it in. Like I said, just getting it into all the air bubbles. Where I've carved this foam, because obviously when you carve this foam, it becomes all aerated like this, and when you start putting the filler on, you need to do that, get it all filled in. And hopefully then it looks something like this, and then as this dries, it'll be a nice smooth surface, a smoother surface I should say, but I don't want it that smooth. I want it a bit rough because it's supposed to be rock. So, but I'm not too worried about that either, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some sand, and I'm just going to sprinkle sand over the top of it, and that'll just stick. It'll use the filler as a glue and just make a very sort of sandy, dusty surface. Oh, see there? But yeah, I tried to make up the filler so that it was a little bit thinner, so it just gives me time to do what I'm doing here, which is just playing around with it to make sure it gets into all the areas that it needs to go in. So glad I'm wearing the glove, because this would have been really messy otherwise. Right, I'm going to knock the camera off because I need to get on with this. So right now what I've done, if you look at the edge here, you can see whereby I've done the edge, and it's all covered in brick and sand. And what I've done now is I've gone over and done some blending so that the edges are now sort of blending a little bit better. And I've gone over with a burnt umber wash. And now what I'm doing is I'm going over it with a white, just to make it look a little bit more highlighty. Now the trick to doing it on a mass scale is to use a white that is a transparent white, and what I've done there is I've mixed it 50-50. So it's 50% water, 50% paint, so it's quite thin, and the reason for that is because when I'm doing it like this, I'm painting down here, I'm highlighting and catching the edges, I can't actually see what it looks like, because I'm painting it from the back. I can't actually see what it actually looks like. So I'm using a sort of a bit of experience on what I think is happening with dry brushing, and particularly the fact that I'm dry brushing with a 2.5-inch brush. So what I think is happening, and I just dip that in the paint there, get most of it off on the paper towel, and then I come back up onto the edge and just very lightly just get it like that. And what will happen is that when this dries now, is that because it's a transparent paint, it'll be a little bit thin. It won't be as noticeable. So you do some dry brushing like this and you think, oh, that's quite severe. But when that dries, it'll be a bit more transparent, so it'll actually, it won't be as visible when it dries. So You actually go back over it a couple of times if you need to. But yeah, just catching the edges, and that's probably the best way to do it on a mass scale, I think. So I mean, the thing is, you don't want to overdo it anyway, because if you end up overdoing it, you're gonna have to redo your paint job, and I don't want to. So that kind of looks like that, and I think that's a nice little effect. I'm gonna come across here a little bit just to catch these highlights here. There you go. That breaks up a little bit. There you go. So yeah, if you're going to do it on a large scale, I would suggest that you use a thinner paint and use transparent paints as well, just so that you can't really overdo it. That you'd have to redo the effect over and over before you end up going too far. There you go. I think that's looking pretty good. And there you go. That's what it looks like now that the dry brushing is dried. So yeah, using a thinner paint and a paint that is transparent, one that requires you to use multiple coats if need be, but it offers a bit of contrast, a bit of shape, a bit of highlighting, and you've got just a little bit more control. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is building the construction site for Moonrise. This is what Moonrise Bar should have been. So this is sort of going to be mid-construction. It's going to be a multi-story construction site. So it's not just going to be like, you know, one unconstructed building. It's going to be like, you know, this should have been a hotel, a plush sort of hotel, but the money ran out. So what I'm doing here is I've got the basics for the layout, you know, the very basic, and I'm just putting in, I've got pieces of scrap styrene that I've cut to round about the same height, and now these are going to be cut to make intersecting wall sections. Just little, I'm not going all the way to the end. I'm going to chop this up, and then I'm going to insert these pieces into make these layers a little bit more broken up. But unlike when you're doing a destroyed wall where you'd just you know, gnarly up the edges, you want this to look like it's coming together, so everything needs to be sort of sharp. So yeah, I'm just taking like a piece like this, and that actually is going to go there, where I just put it. So I'll just take this piece, give it a bit of glue. I'm not being too fussy on where things are going, because I don't actually have, you know, a final design in mind. And this guy's pretty straight. So yeah, I don't have a final design for what Moonrise should be in mind. I know roughly what I think the thing should look like, but as for, you know, its overall design, no, I'm kind of, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to keep adding these little bits here, but the other thing about this is that this is upside down. So it's going to be, that's going to be the first sort of floor, and then I'm going to put other floors in on top of it. So that's why I'm not really worried about the underside here. I'm going to put in these little pieces. I'm not necessarily, sometimes I'll go to the edge to make it sort of out the wall, and other times then I'll come in just a little bit to make it look like, oh, you know, there's something meant to be here. So it just adds visual interest as well. If you're just going to wall up the outside, then you may as well just build the whole damn thing. So no, I'm just going to come into the inside there, and then maybe I'll put in some trusses or girders or something in the side there. It's just going to create shadow, contrast, and again, visual interest. So yeah, I'm going to crack on with that. And there you go. That's what, you know, this is like, what, 4 stories of construction, I guess. All these girder work everywhere. The floors, nice sort of circular area. I don't know what it's going to be. That's probably going to be the sign or something, maybe, for the front of the bar. Same in the back there. It's all open and exposed. So yeah, I think this is going to work well. I've got some spare trusses here that I had printed off, so I might just use these on, you know, bits of the set and just have them sort of like leaning, like as if, you know, they're getting ready to be used, but they're not quite. So yeah, I think this is decent enough. I'm going to give it a paint now, and then I can put it on the set. So yeah, I've got the paint down and just put a bit of white on it. Not being too even with it, just mottled so that it's quite an uneven layering. All I'm doing now is I'm just putting a quick little masking tape down and just essentially just dry brushing an edge in. I'm not being too fussy with it. And all this is doing is that when I take this off, you should be able to see like a little panel line there. So yeah, I'm not being too fussy with it. This just allows me to sort of divide up the concrete, just to put a little bit of detail in. I don't even think you're going to see it, but you know, it's better to have it and not see it than not have it and want it. So yeah, I'm just going to keep going on with this now. Just keep dry brushing these panels in. Yeah, it shouldn't take me too long, because I'm not really. Again, I'm not really worried about how they go down. So yeah, I've got that done now. I'm just going over now with some silver, just in little places where things are supposed to be, you know, metal. Not being too fussy as to where it picks up the metal. It's just like a light dry brush over the top. Just getting, you know, on the girder work. Just give it a little dab on my towel there, and just to take off the most of it. Cool. So yeah, that's pretty much just do some of these. Be delicate because I don't want them to break. Yeah, I think I'll get a little bit of colour on here now. Nothing major, just little bits here or there. And maybe a little bit of weathering, and she's good to go. There you go, there's Moonrise sitting on the set, all ready to be glued into place and ready to go. Job done. So what I'm doing now is I'm making up some set dressing for the construction site, and what I'm going to be making is a wood stillage. And to make the planks for the wood stillage, I am using some stirring sticks. Just, you know, really quick, really easy, really cheap. The reason why I'm doing it is because, you know, wood really doesn't get that much of a look in sci-fi. It's normally plastics and metals and stuff like that. And wood is really, you know, the oldest construction material we used, and we've used it since the dawn of time, and we're still using it now. So I think we'll still be using it in 500 to 1,000 years time. So yeah, so what I've decided to do is to make a wood stillage. I'm going to be using these because they're about the right scale for the width of the planks, and I'm going to snip these into the right length, put them into bundles, and then build the stillage for them to go in, and then they can go on set. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is making the planks, and at 172 scale a 25 foot plank comes in at 105 millimeters. So I'm just going to put it there with my ruler and mark 105 millimeters, and mark the front as well because I've got to clip the front off. And if I take my snips here, I should be able to just put those in, get it fairly square. It doesn't have to be perfect. Give it a snip. It's not too bad. Same this end. There you go. One plank. And now I can use that as a template to do all the others. I should point out that while I'm doing this, that I am in fact using my older snips. I'm not using anything, I'm not using my down to zeros. Because I don't want to ruin them. So yeah, I'm using my older snips just to do this. So for the stillage itself, I 3D printed the frame and sanded the edges, and then glued these two parts of the frame to it. I sanded the edge because it makes it more abrasive, it makes for a better contact with the glue. And that's going to be the stillage container. And next thing to do now is to give this a paint, and then I can add my planks to the stillage. So now the entire frame is painted, I'm just going to go over it now with a little bit of silver highlight for dry brushing in areas. Now I'm just using a mithril silver, so I don't want a great deal on the brush. I'm not trying to make it look, you know, really beaten up, but you know, just want some little bit of silver showing through on things like edges and whatnot, where you know it's been banged around and paint's come off, and because these things get put in storage and slammed around. So but I'm not trying to make it look like it's like massively beaten up. So yeah, there's just touches of highlights of silver on that edge. Can't see it very well, but it's there. And now what I'm going to do now is just add a little bit of weathering to it. I've got some homemade rust, which is, well, rust. I basically crushed a car with my bare hands. Now I just took a little bit of rust off an old piece of metal and just went over it with a wire brush that took it off, collected it up and put it in a jar. Put a little bit of water in there so it rusted a little bit more, because there were still bits of metal in there, as you can still see. But now yeah, I'm just going to go over these areas with the rust. And that really, it just adds a little bit to it. You can't really, it's difficult to see, I know, but it's there. And now I'm just going to go over it in places with a black weathering powder, just getting it sort of into the corners. Not doing anything too spectacular. But just get that in there. Maybe on little bits where dirt might have been caught. Just get where water might have run off. A bit of dirt might have caused some streaking. There, I think that's done. I can load the wood into the frame. And it's now ready to go on the set. And that's the wood stillage done.